two states are being warned that power load shedding may be needed tonight. So the energy market operator is forecasting demand may outstrip supply between 5 o'clock and 8:30 this evening, or even later than that, just depending on consumer behaviour. That's in Queensland. A similar forecast is emerging for New South Wales, and if demand outstrips what is being generated, then load shedding will happen to protect the network. For some reaction now on this emerging news, it is only just coming to us now, we're joined by Professor Ariel Lieberman, who is the director of the Monash Energy Institute and Professor for Sustainable Energy. Welcome back, Ariel, in a quick turnaround since our last discussion, but events have moved quickly this evening. Can you just explain why and how unusual it is to move into these load shedding warnings that the market operator is issuing this evening across Queensland and New South Wales in particular?
It's very unusual, obviously, it's not entirely surprising for two reasons. One of them is that we do have a lot of the coal generation capacity that typically wouldn't be offline during this time unexpectedly out, and we do have a lot of the Australian fleet is still coal and gas as well. And this unexpected outage is causing pressure, and combined with quite cold temperatures, there are situations where very tight supply and demand conditions could in fact occur, and it's not completely unprecedented. It does happen from time to time. You never build a grid for 100% reliability. That's astronomically expensive. But what's compounded the situation at the moment is this unusual linkage of Australian natural gas fire generators' costs to the international gas market, which has unusually been extremely high due to the withdrawal of global gas capacity by Russia during the Ukraine war. And so, yeah, things are pretty unusual end to end.
So this is the culmination of all the things that we were discussing, you and I, last week, but also that energy ministers across the country were discussing in crisis talks. What then, Ariel, is it that the market operator is asking to happen? When we say load shedding, who are we talking about? Mums and dads in their chilly houses, or are we talking about big industrial users of power? How does it work?
Well, so I guess first of all, the load shedding, and this is what you might call forced load shedding, or more technically rotational load shedding, is the last resort. They are going to go to a couple of other mechanisms first. One of them is to look at contracts with large industrial users under what's known as the RERT mechanism, RERT, which is a reserve and emergency reliability trader, which some of them will be able to turn off some of their load, and that's part of a contract. It's kind of like a market mechanism where they get paid to turn off, which is more or less aligned with the way the markets were initially designed, but it's only meant to be used in emergencies. And then they are also trying to get some of the natural gas-fired generators to turn back on as quickly as possible. It appears some of them withdrew their capacity once the market went into an administrative price cap period, which was due to the extremely high prices. This is a mechanism built into the market designed to protect consumers from extended periods of high price. It basically is a kind of a suspension of normal market operation conditions, and that's also designed into the market because it was anticipated some things like that will happen. But what wasn't anticipated is that these generators wouldn't come back on because their operating costs are higher than lower rather than the price they'd be getting. Although I think it will be remains to be seen when all the dust settles what the true operating costs of everyone's plant really were during these times.
So when we're talking about force, I mean, just for consumers who probably definitely don't follow these things as closely as you, Ariel, we're not talking about forced blackouts for the retail customer here in most cases.
Well, no, that could happen. Some couple of hours in different suburbs. What they tend to do is they try and limit the extended outage. So it could be that, and then the last resort, which I didn't quite get to in my explanation before, is absolute last resort is then, might be a couple of hours in one suburb, then another one, then another one. That's why they call it rotational. They try and minimize the impact. And this used to happen quite a lot in the early days of the Queensland market. I remember when I was in the industry back in the late 90s, when Queensland was not connected to the rest of the national electricity grid. So conditions overall are much better than they used to be now about 25 years or so ago. But this can happen. The question is, was it avoidable, or were there other policy mistakes made between then and now that have led us here?
Sounds like we might be asking those questions and maybe seeking some answers from you and others in the days ahead. Let's see what tonight brings. Anyway, Ariel Liebman, for coming to us at very short notice with your expertise. Thanks for explaining exactly what's going on in the market today.
Let's hope it sorts itself out quickly.
Indeed.